I think at that time, it's more like we are building the plane while we're flying it. I was so anxious. So my focus was more like, oh, let's just try a subset of data. Let's fit in a lot of models quickly, get outputs. But I have to say, you helped me hold myself to a higher engineering standard.
That conflict, actually, Daliana, at the time, it gave me so much stress. It was during
we were not talking.
No,
what's your side of the story? Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Data Scientist Show. Today, we have Mehdi Noori. Maddie is an applied science manager at the Generative AI Innovation Center at Amazon. Previously, he was an applied scientist at Machine Learning Solutions Lab, where we used to work together. We collaborated on a computer vision project, and we didn't quite get along. And today we'll talk about that story, the conflict we had and how we resolved it and become good friends. And today we're recording this episode at Maddie's amazing living room studio in Brooklyn. So before Amazon, Maddie was a data scientist working on marketing intelligence at Nelson. He did a postdoc at MIT's Sustainability Hub. He has a PhD from University of Central Florida in civil engineering and sustainability. Welcome to the show, Maddie.
Thank you, Daliana. I'm super excited to be here. I've been just waiting for this moment to sit down and chat with you, Daliana.
Absolutely. Cheers.
Cheers. Daliana and I, we worked together, I think in San Francisco. It was during the pandemic, right? Yeah. So we went to a project together and you were the lead on that project.
I was the lead on the project. So to give people some context, it was a computer vision project where we wanted to help our customers to predict whether there would be a soccer goal in the next few seconds.
Yeah.
So it's a action recognition project, and we have a blog post on it. I will link it in the show notes. There was a very fun challenge in the project because the data wasn't annotated. And I remember each of us had to watch over, hundreds of soccer goals to make sure the timestamp was correct, right? In one afternoon. And after that, I didn't want to watch soccer for a few months. And I remember you said something. You mentioned basically, whenever you have your data ready, the project is 80% done. So we spent like 2 weeks just annotate the data before we fine-tune the model. Computer vision models are usually pretty mature. So even if we only had a couple hundreds data point, it was pretty good in the classification tasks. So the project was very successful. But while we're working on the project, we had a disagreement and we're going to get to it. It's a great story. But let's talk about Maddie's career journey first, because he had quite an unconventional path to data science. So how did you get into it?
Okay, where do I start? So my background is actually in civil engineering. I did bachelor's in civil engineering and then a master's in construction management in my country, Iran. And then I did work in construction projects in, various parts of my country, mostly building roads and bridges in the deserted areas. I think the last project that I was a project manager for, it was like a high-rise building, which was energy efficient and almost smart building. And at that point, I was very fascinated by the concept of using, say, a smart lighting fixtures or have a system that governs the behavior of this building, right? From an intelligent point of view. So I decided to move to United States. I remember that I applied for like 10 schools. I woke up one day and I had to take the TOEFL exam and GRE exam.
Yep.
And then I applied for 10 schools and a few of them gave me, admission without any funds, including the University of Central Florida in Orlando, Florida. So I had some friends there and I was like, that's like a good start. I have some friends there. So that's when I moved to the UCF and I started working in almost like an environmental sustainability lab. where we worked on various projects. We started working from, wind turbine integration in buildings. How does it play out? Topics such as life cycle assessment, triple bottom line analysis. And then I got a master's from UCF because I thought if I get a PhD, I'm not going to make any money. So I got the master's and then I moved to Boston. And then I worked at a utility firm working on net zero, energy efficiency incentives. And then that company actually didn't sponsor for my visa. So I was left without basically any visa status.
Right.
At that point, I had to come back to Orlando. I did take a PhD in sustainability, and then I led the lab for a year. But then, things happened, and I ended up at MIT doing a postdoc for 2 years. I was going to go for becoming, and working as an academic person in sustainability. However, this country decided to choose a person who deprioritizes the earth. So a lot of the sustainability funds were actually cut in 2017, 2018 period. So then I decided to finally go after something that makes the most money at the time, which was data science.
Yeah.
So yeah.
How did you know data scientists make more money than what you did before?
I mean, it was the word of the street. And then also the number of job posting in data science were a lot. And then the signals I would get from my friends that, hey, this is, go and read this statistics book or, I did know coding. I did know the basic concept of machine learning. Of course, you can't get a PhD without knowing regression. You got to know it. Or classification. You got to know those concepts. But from the actual data science side of things, how do you structure a data science problem, how do you go about solving it, that was pretty new to me. So then I joined data camp, and that was basically the start of how I got in. So I went through this data camp for 1 month. It was basically for a month I was logged into this camp for 300 hours while also working full time at MIT. So that was pretty challenging. I then participated in a few Kaggle competitions.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I participated, and guess what? I won a bronze medal and I won a silver medal on competitions. And I was like, all right, this is not that hard. I could figure things out. So then I applied for a job at a company in marketing intelligence, and I get it. I get the job. It was super exciting. It was in Boston. I lived in Boston. Fantastic. I even went and I bought a new car. I was very excited.
Yeah, living a life. Did the experience in Kaggle competition help you get a job?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, here's the thing. If you're an outsider from any career, you're an outsider, you want to get into the whatever the role you want to get. I think there are 3 different aspects to it. It's the location of where you're going to work, the industry, and the role. So a lot of us maybe want a career that fits the 3 of them all at the same time. But oftentimes, actually, we have to choose one and then jump to the other. For example, you could be like, hey, I want to work and live in New York City in the finance sector, and I want to become a quant, right? You could choose either of them. You can move to New York and then find the industry and then find the role. You could get into the role and then move. For me, I think Kaggle was the key to get into the data science role, right? So the location and the industry was still not what I wanted, but I participated in those competitions, and that basically added to the brand that I am presenting.
Yeah.
So especially if you're an outsider, you want to have some features showing in your resume that I could do the job.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So how did you get into Amazon?
Amazon, that's an interesting story. So yeah, what happened though with that company, because I moved to Chicago after that, probably the most challenging times of my career were those days that you're completely new to the industry. And then my colleague left to the competitor. The other colleague went to maternity leave. And then my kind of manager was almost laid off because the company went through a merger and acquisition. And at the time, you're a junior data scientists, you have no idea how the organization, like these large organizations work. For me, that was like such a big deal. Nowadays, I see reorgs every day, and then nothing breaks me. But at that time, like a little reorg really made me stressed. So I packed all my life and I moved to Chicago. When I was in Chicago, I liked the job. I'm not going to lie. It was super amazing to work as a developer a data science, like whoever that develops that engine of optimization that takes, an input and optimizes, passes and input. We worked on that. So it was a lot of technical work, a lot of, thinking, and it was great, but a little bit slow for my pace because I needed the action. I needed to see things in production. I needed to actually have an interaction with the customers. I love them.
Yeah.
So then I applied for this role at Machine Learning Solutions Lab in San Francisco. And I didn't know deep learning. I remember that Priya, which I had the first phone call.
So Priya was our manager when we joined the Machine Learning Solution Lab, and she also hired me. Yeah. So what was your experience with Priya?
I mean, she's amazing. So I had the interview, the phone call with Priya, everything went well. The initial screening, and at the end of the call, she goes, "Yes, your next interview will be in deep learning." I'm like, wow. Okay, let's get into it. So I remember so in Chicago, the best month of the year is in July, right? It's fantastic. Weather is great. Everyone's out there, hanging out by the lake and in the restaurants, great food. I was really looking forward to having fun in Chicago, but I found myself just for maybe 6 to 7 weeks or 5 weeks sitting down, not moving, and taking the deep learning AI by Andrew Ng course, and then reading Yoshua Bengio's papers, and just getting myself into the mud completely, learning about convolutional neural nets and recurrent neural nets. It was quite a transformational experience for me, just basically going deep day to night, nonstop, every single day.
So you had 3 weeks to prepare for the deep learning. 5 weeks.
Yeah. And I passed it. I passed the course. It was like a coding. I remember I had to code a CNN block from scratch. So I did it. It was like, when I finished, I was like, great.
Yeah. Awesome.
So
Yeah. So when you joined Machine Learning Solution Lab, what was it like? What did you do?
Yeah, so like I said, I mean, going back to, the Priya conversation, I think she gave me an opportunity to work and be the lead on one of the sports vertical projects.
Yeah.
Which was, I took it, and I think I did a fantastic job there. I just worked on it day and night.
Yeah.
And maybe like not an advice, like a recommendation for whoever that is joining a new company or a new role would be the first 3 months in my opinion, are super critical. And one suggestion would be, no matter what, just find a way to have an early win. Right? So you want to just have an early win. It could be jumping on a even awkward project and bring a value. It could be, just helping a teammate with something. It could be just jumping on a publication and do additional work to make it more prepared for submission. It could be anything. It could be like pushing a line of code to a repository, Yeah, so that was fantastic for me. Just having the opportunity to do that.
Yeah. So when we were at Machine Learning Solution Lab, you worked on the sports industry, working with NFL. Can you tell us what were you working on? What was the project like? What's the problem you're trying to solve?
Yeah. So on the sports side, I think we, at the time, the first one was with Six Nations. We also published a blog post. It was game of rugby to basically predict the penalty probability, right? So there are some penalties from different parts of the field. Actually, it's different than soccer or even, I think, than American football. Every place you could actually put the ball and then kick it So given the variables such as XYZ and the player historical information, and then the in-game situational features, we then developed a prediction model that was actually broadcasted live during the championship.
Oh, wow.
So that was
That's
pretty
awesome.
cool. Yeah. So AI-powered stats in sports, right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
That was one which was good. With the NFL, we worked on a defender ghosting problem, which is, using the location of the players and then understanding how to, like a coach, how does a coach should strategize in guiding the team.
Right.
But it's like a data-driven approach to, strategizing for a game. What else? We did the Sport Radar, which was predicting soccer goals 2 seconds, in advance, which was like a fascinating project. We worked on a bunch of other things. I can't recall right now. I worked on too many POCs.
Right. So before we worked together, you already a tech lead in a lot of projects.
Yeah.
And the project we worked on together, this is the first time I work as a tech lead. And also this is the first computer vision project I work on. So it's a learning experience for me, both on leadership and the technical part. So it was very stressful for me. And I have to say, I made some mistakes in the project. For example, I think I didn't know how to trust people I lead. I wanted to check everyone's work. And now I know you need to trust your team. And instead of manually checking everyone's work, be a micromanager, you can develop processes to do code review, model review. That's what we implemented later. And we also had a disagreement. Do you remember what I was?
I don't remember what like I know that we had a conflict, but where was it? I don't remember. Do you remember?
Yeah, I think we talked a little bit about that yesterday. We might still disagree on this topic because you wanted to build a complete pipeline.
Yeah.
When we say pipeline, do you want to tell the audience what is a pipeline?
So like a
in your
data
mind?
pipeline, I think a recommendation for anyone who wants to do a proof of concept and wants to know whether whatever the approach that they think of that may apply to the problem in scope is going to work on or not, it would be just to build a pipeline, a data pipeline that basically takes an input data and then passes it through, a chain of processes and then outputs the insights that you're looking for. It could be like a probability, of a prediction. It could be like a word. It could be like an image, whatever it is, right? So, I remember that we had that. I wanted to go build the pipeline, make it efficient, multi-processing.
Right, yeah. And my position was, we only have 3 months. Let's move fast.
Yeah.
So, and also I remember we had a discussion. You're like, Daliana, we need to be perfectionists. And I was like, I'm not a perfectionist. We need to build this prototype, which now I worked on more projects. I do see the value of high standard on the engineering side. You might disagree with me, but I still feel at that time, our goal was to build a POC. The objective is to show our customer the possibility. So in terms of a timeline, what we were doing wasn't perfect, but I think it met the goal. But again, if we had more time, or say if we have another engineer on the team, it's definitely ideal to build a pipeline. So in general, I would say if you are working on a project that, for example, you have 6 months or longer, it's definitely worth it to build the infrastructure.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I think at that time, it's more like we are building the plane while we're flying it. I was so anxious. What if this video recognition algorithm doesn't work? So my focus was more like, let's just try a subset of data. Let's fit in a lot of models quickly, get output. So that was my perspective. But I have to say, I like that we have this balance. Yeah. So you helped me hold myself to a higher engineering standard. And also I think you proposed us do more rigorous code review.
Yeah, I mean, that was a very fun, that conflict actually, Daliana, at the time, it gave me so much stress. It was during
we were not talking for a few weeks. We were just like madly messaging each other on Slack. What's your side of the story? What's your side of the story?
It was in the middle of the pandemic, like everyone's like lonely at home. And then, the drama at workplace actually adds to the quality of course, your mental health. Right. So I was just like thinking about it all the time. I remember.
You're like, Dalian doesn't want me to build this pipeline.
Exactly. And I'm a civil engineer. So, like I just want it to be in place so that I know what's going on. Even if it's broken, I'm like, okay, now let's go fix this. At least there's like, something on the ground. Yeah, I have to be honest. I was also new. It's not like at this point, I probably just would let go and then see how events unfold because of like so much uncertainty is out there.
Right.
Just the fact to whether, we run this over 64 CPUs or one CPU. Wouldn't like make it does, but maybe when you're right, when we push to production and we want to optimize the, basically price performance, right? So because all of these has a trade-off, right?
Yeah.
So optimization of your data pipeline, of course, will help you with your cost down the road and, your latency down the road.
Right.
But then when you want to test out the idea, probably that's not important, right? So you just want to know whether your model is performing well so that you go invest more resources on it. So yeah, but maybe we want to talk about how did we get here from not talking to now,
But we were friends before that.
Yeah, we were friends.
Yeah, I remember when we both joined a team around the same time, moving from different places to San Francisco, we had our one-on-one and it was Thanksgiving. We didn't have any family in the city. So we did our first one-on-one in this very nice bar with a view. I remember. That's our first one-on-one. And you told me your story, how you moved to the US from Iran, which we can talk more later about your entire life story. So I remember that. So we were friends and then we worked together and then I was this team lead. So there's a little bit of a weird dynamic. And I also remember you host this amazing house party. You're DJing. And so at that time, I was worried, what if we're not going to be friends anymore? I think after the project finished, I think, first of all, it was successful.
It was amazing. Yeah. Wow, the turnout was fantastic. Even the customer went and put together a demo. A really nice demo.
Yeah.
And then it was in Espanol. The goal was in Espanol. And Espanol, they go hard on the commentator. It was great when the model showed 100% goal. And then the commentator was like, Golazo! It was so nice. I loved it.
So we really earned trust from the customer. We had weekly sync up with them. And there's just so many lessons, not just on the technical side, but also how to work with external customers and earn trust. And during the project, sometimes our initial idea didn't work. We have to pivot it. It's like we have gone through so much in the 3 months. And after that, I think maybe it was you reach out to me. You're like, hey, Daliana, do you want to catch up? Was it?
Yeah. I think, here's the thing. Because that was a situation, Daliana, for me that I really wanted to handle. I am not very good with conflicts. Like I am a people pleaser. I want to make everyone happy. If someone's not happy with me, it makes me uncomfortable. Why? Can I do something? So I reached out to you and then I think I suggested, or either you, but it was like a kind of like a collective or mutual agreement that, hey, let's put some monthly meeting on the calendar. We just check in. Hey, how are you?
Yeah, we didn't really talk about work. We talk about other things. I remember we talk about meditation. You recommended this documentary for this yogi. I did buy the book.
You did? Okay.
Yeah, so I think when you talk about those things beyond work that kind of mended our friendship. Yeah. And then I left the team. Later, I left Amazon, and then you moved to New York, but we stayed in touch.
Yeah, we stay in touch.
We still have our monthly or chat. I remember, we even have different time zones. Great to learn that you have become a manager and you're doing generative AI. So yeah, I'm very grateful we resolved our conflict.
Same, Daliana. Yeah, same. I think I'm gonna tell this story to like my reports and my future friends and whatever. Like the fact that we could overcome the conflict and make it like right to this friendship, to this level. It's liberating. Right now, like what happened, when you see the dark side of the moon, then things become so easy for you,
Was it that bad?
No, I mean, like when you see that, there is a conflict and it's the pandemic and stress, and then you overcome it. I feel like now, when there's a conflict at work, I know that it's not the end of the world, right?
No.
So you could fix it. There are ways you could approach it differently. They call it lead with empathy, etc. So that goes,
I think sometimes just take the initiative to reach out and reconnect with people. Goes a long way. Now, also from your perspective, maybe you're so stressed, you're afraid of conflict. But on my side, I was also very stressed. Because I was worried, is Maddie gonna be angry? I remember, so at that time, I was working on a promotion. And this is the project that's very important for my promotion. I remember my manager was asking me, because we need to get our coworkers feedback for the promotion. You don't need to get feedback from everyone, but you need to have a few people supports and write the document. I remember my manager's like, maybe don't ask Maddie because he might not be supportive. I don't remember whether I asked you or not, but I think eventually...
You have no idea how many people I have supported after that. So I would definitely be supportive of you.
But I think I definitely asked you for my annual review because I was thinking, even if you give me negative review, I would be curious to get your perspective. So I think I did ask you for a review. I don't know whether...
What did I wrote? I don't know. Okay, I probably didn't write something bad. Okay.
No, I don't think you did.
Because you know now.
Yeah. Wait, I think I did remember. I think maybe you did write something about the pipeline or the engineering skills.
Oh my God.
But I know your intention is good. I know you're a good person. I think we have a different work style, different communication style. Which is now when I look back, you can only laugh at those things. That's the stories that make your career or life interesting.
Exactly, yeah.
And going back to the technical side, so what was your technical stack? Because at that time, every time we work on a new project, we have to learn new things. And there are a lot of AWS services, there are papers. So what kind of tools you use and how did you learn those new models, new solutions?
Yeah, just like you mentioned, we worked at the Amazon machine learning solutions lab, where our job was to help the customer accelerate the adoption of AI ML in their workloads, find the right use cases to work on and such, across the board, across so many different use cases. If I want to be honest, I feel like, you always want to have a personal brand. Wherever you are, you want to have a personal brand, right? So for example, I remember that, Daliana, you were leading the retail vertical, or you had some experience with the retail side. So that was your personal brand, right? So for example, if there was a question about retail, everyone would be like, go talk to Daliana, right? For me, maybe my personal brand was, passionate about sustainability, energy, and then, computer vision. I worked on some NLP. But then how do we keep up? It becomes, again, going back to your personal brand, right? So there is so much to learn, right? every day there is a new innovation.
Yeah.
You can't just go and learn everything. I think you have to figure out what is it that you want your brand to be, and then go work on that, so that in situations when you're chosen to provide value, you actually have something to offer to the table, right? So for example, I mean, talking about generative AI, maybe, I feel like most of us did some form of a generative AI work in the past. Like I personally published even a paper on QA, open book question answering. We used even, some sort of form of a GPT model at the time. But then with the kind of like the new wave of generative AI, every day there is a new approach. Every day there is a new model, right? So one suggestion that I would have is if someone is just opening their eyes to Gen AI, for example, they can start taking, again, one of actually Andrew Ng, again, Deep Learning AI has a really, really good course. I don't know, have you taken that one?
No, but yeah, I know.
which
Yeah,
one
there are
is
a
that?
lot of free resources
Free
out
resources.
there. Yeah.
So you go take like an overview course, and then you read overview, like a review paper. For example, there's this really great review paper on LLMs. You could read that, and then when you read, and then when you get a high level view, you know what it is like. Recently I've been traveling, actually often, and then every city I go, I hit the tourist bus, and then I sit on the floor, on the roof, and then I see everything. And then when I see everything, the next day I come, I'm like, okay, these areas I want to go double down. I want to buy the tickets to go explore. That's exactly how I would approach it. I would just read the review paper, and then I know, oh, this area is an area of interest to me. Maybe I just need to go and find out more information about that area, because it's impossible, especially for someone who is getting into a new field. It would be impossible. And imposter syndrome will kill you there. Just feeling that, oh, I don't know everything. That's fine. As long as you have some things very good, that's your brand. And, you will find a way to provide value. So imagine there is like someone who had a background in finance. They were like a banker. They were like, worked at a private equity, and then decide now, okay, I'm going to go and become an expert in Gen AI, right? They go learn, they go understand, they go find how to build an LLM system and product. But then the knowledge in finance and the background is in finance is going to have a compounding effect on their career, in my opinion, right? So, for example, new opportunity of Gen AI application comes in financial services. I will go to you and I would be asked, hey, what's the landscape here?
Yeah.
Can you explain to me?
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by personal brand, right? So
Gotcha. So basically, even if you transition your career, you can leverage your previous industry expertise.
Yes.
Yeah, and build on top of that.
Yes. So many skills are transferable in life. It's incredible. Like to this date, Daliana, I use my skill set that I earned at the construction site.
Oh, wow. For example, what skill set?
Like dealing with uncertainty.
Okay.
How do you deal with uncertainty? Everything may break down at any moment at a construction site.
Right.
You have, your contractors, you have the engineer, you have the client, and then you have the weather, and then you have, the equipment. Everything may break. And then how do you actually navigate through this storm of uncertainty and manage and prioritize tasks, right? So that skill set, I still use it when I work with our customers in Gen AI, because it's the same. I mean, it's not the same. It's different. It's a different environment. But from the point of view of project management, like the skill set you earn in project management, a skill set you earn in communication, communication is super important, Of course, you may have a paper in Nature and good for you, but as long as you can't communicate and win another person's heart, you're not going to go anywhere. I mean, you're going to go anywhere to somewhere, but, it's going to be capped.
Yeah. So, for example, dealing with uncertainty.
Yeah.
What's your framework in dealing with uncertainty?
That's a very good question. I think for, like a suggestion or how do I go about it is, I think prioritization is super important, right? So you want to...
So you are uncertain about things. You're dealing with ambiguity. You don't have anything to prioritize. How do you approach this?
I mean, you do like, maybe you assess the risks
Okay.
of each of, so how, say that you want to run a project, you form a backlog, there's like 20 items to do, right? So you assess the risks. Of course, if you can categorize them, that would be great. So if you can put them into some order, these chunks into the order, that would be great.
Yeah.
If you can find milestones along that so that you hit that milestone, whatever that milestone is, that's great. So after it's, there is like a map in front of you, then I think you go analyze and assess the risks of each of those items that are in each bucket and then prioritize from that point of view, right? So if you don't implement the unit test, I'm just, bringing that out, thinking out loud. If you don't implement the unit test, probably the risks are high because, during production, but then during model development, probably not that much, right?
Right.
Versus data cleaning and, having the right labels is much more important during the model development.
Yeah.
So how do you go and prioritize? I think that's from understanding what's the risks.
Yeah.
If you miss on something.
Yeah. And you also talk about it's very important to communicate well.
Yeah.
And especially when we work on projects, whether it's in Machine Learning Solutions Lab or now you're in a GenAI Innovation Center,
Yeah.
you work a lot with customers. So what's your best advice working with customers and earn their trust, build a relationship?
Okay, where do I start? Okay, so I want to give you a little bit of introduction and then get into that.
Sure.
So I think, from where I see the GenAI and like the other technological advancements is going and all the conversation about the future of humanity and such, in my opinion, human-to-human connection is going to be much more valuable in coming years than it used to be before. Of course, it's, we'll live for human connection. And I think authenticity is super important, like being your authentic self.
What does it mean being your authentic self?
I wish I knew, because I think I am being my authentic self when I am in front of the customers or like with colleagues. Don't play games, just relax, don't stress, be yourself. Use your instruments well. What are your instruments, for example, in an in-person meeting? Your body, your voice, your
eye
contact, your hands, right? Like use your instruments well, lean into people, ask them and listen. Listening is super important, right? So when you listen, actually bring in your full intention to listen.
Yeah.
Don't just ask a question as if you're just asking a question, be intentional about it. People love to get compliments. I love to give compliments to people because, I love to receive compliments, so I can tell others. So if someone does a good job and you see something interesting, it's like point out, it's going to break the ice. What else? Respect, of course, always have to keep the respect. But also like earning trust with whoever that you're working on as early as possible.
Yeah.
It's probably the most important thing that I could, in my opinion, that could make that relationship last longer and have higher ROI, right?
How do we earn trust? For example, you work with this new customer, they don't know you, they are suspicious about the capacity.
You work hard. You wake up at 5 a.m. and you work hard.
Yeah.
And then you deliver results and value.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how you earn it. You just have to work hard. You have to find all the corners that you can bring value and then just deliver on those corners until the moment that you see that customer is like, oh, this is actually better than what we did.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I love that. So basically, it's important to have those interpersonal skills, those people skills. But at the end of the day, the trust is built on top of your results.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, of course, you're not going to finish 3 months project in 3 days. But it's important to show momentum, to identify some low-hanging fruits, or, hey, I built some data pipeline. I did some exploratory analysis.
Yeah.
Don't wait till the end of the project to give a presentation. You can, like what we did, we schedule a weekly check-in with the customer.
That's super important.
Yeah.
That like hammer every week.
That's how we earn trust.
Earn trust, yeah.
And also, we didn't hide some failures we had. I remember there's a model that didn't work well, but we communicated to our customer.
Of course, like as I said, like being authentic, it doesn't mean that be authentic. Of course, be authentic on the self, but also like in approach, in how you actually deal with the problem.
Right.
Be authentic. If something doesn't work well, just be transparent with them. You know, this probably doesn't work well. However, we have all these great suggestions that you could do that, you know, improves it. Give me your basically priorities. Give me your timeline. I'll come up with a plan.
Yeah.
How I think we should approach.
Yeah. Great. So, Maddie, I remember during our first one-on-one, you told me this very exciting story about how you got into college. Can you tell us this story again?
Yeah. I mean, so in Iran, we have a nationwide exam that is 4 hours multiple choice exam. It happens at one time. And actually, if you're a guy in my country, because there is the military service followed when you reach the 18-year-old, you have to go to do the military service. So if you miss that exam and you don't get into a college, you actually go into a military service. Maybe you are given a chance to do it again. I'm not sure at this point, but at that time, I only had one chance to take this exam. I remember for like 1 year of my life, I would only study, nothing else. I would just study a lot of memorization. There was like math, physics, chemistry, tough questions. Yeah. So, and then when you look at the distribution of population in Iran, my age is at the mode, right?
Yeah.
So the highest number of the people, like the age group, is around my age, which is born in 85, around 1985. So at that year, we had 2 million participants.
Wow.
And then I remember that was the moment for the first time in my life, because I was born and raised in a small town in my country.
Yeah.
That was the first time in my life that I was like, hold on. Am I actually a little bit smart maybe? Like, I don't know, because I was ranked 900 out of 2 million.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. I remember I was in my room and I came, and then my dad was sitting having the breakfast to go to work. And then he's like, dude, what happened? And then I was like, yeah, I got into University of Tehran. And he's like, how? How did that happen? When did you study? Is it even possible? So, yeah. And then I moved to Tehran and, you know, went to University of Tehran in the dormitory. Anyway, like, you know.
Oh, that's a great story. That's the first experience when you had confidence.
Yeah. But then another story I want to share with you when I moved from, so I was a postdoc and the lead of the research lab at University of Central Florida when and then I thought, okay, I'm the smartest kid in the room, you know, like I lead the lab, I already have the PhD, come on, you know. And then I got into MIT. So there are moments in your life that I think you realize that you're smart, but there are also moments in your life that you realize, oh my God, I don't know anything.
Yeah.
And that happened to me when I was a lead scientist at a research lab at the University of Central Florida. And then I finished my PhD. I was a postdoc there, a professor at the school. I thought that I'm really smart. I did it.
Yeah.
And then I remember something really interesting happened about how I ended up to my next basically career move. So when I was the lead, we had everyone in the lab, I think about 5 to 6 PhD students, to submit an abstract to a conference, International Symposium of Sustainable Systems and Engineering, something like that.
Okay.
Which was in Phoenix, Arizona. So I had everyone submit. I also submitted. And then my advisor last minute, he was like, dude, we have no money. We can't support the trip for you guys. So I remember I called a friend who actually lives in New York, and we're going to her place after this, by the way. Yeah. So, okay, you'll get to meet her. I called her and she's like, why don't you just pay out of your pocket and go and present? So that was one of the highest ROI advices I've gotten in my life.
Yeah.
So I did pay and I went, and then I remember at every page of the agenda for the conference, my name was there. So I would just like run from one meeting to the other meeting to deliver the talk. And then it's the last day and, I'm tired. And of course I like to party. So I go drink.
Yeah.
And then I was in the bathroom. And then I remember that I made a joke to this guy while in the bathroom. And then I come out. And then I see them wearing the badge of the conference, and it's written MIT research scientist. And I'm like, oh my God, did I just embarrass myself? So I go and I start talking to him. And then turns out that they are hiring for a postdoc at the Sustainability Hub at MIT. And I still get goosebumps when I think about it, Dariana. Like, that was like a moment that, I did do the interview with them. It's amazing humans, amazing. And then they gave me the position. And then I went to MIT. And then that's the moment, going back to what I was going to tell you, that's the moment that immediately I found myself as the dumbest kid in the room. Like, I didn't know anything. I just thought, how did that happen? And, one thing I want to share maybe with the audience is about luck.
Yeah, moral of the story, make friends in the bathroom.
Especially if you're in a conference,
Yeah.
Or a moral of the story is, if you're at a conference, don't embarrass yourself, or maybe you do.
Or you embarrass yourself more. I don't think it's embarrass yourself. I think you have to overcome the fear of embarrass yourself to make connections.
Yeah.
Like when... we were walking around yesterday, you talked to strangers. I really admire that part of you. You're always open to new opportunities. And I know you meet a lot of mentors and friends this way. I think this is your superpower.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. I love to connect with people. That's basically that's what I live for. But then on luck factor, I was thinking, because yesterday we were talking about luck, and then you said, you asked Mehdi, hey, how did you catch these opportunities, right? I was thinking that there are, in my opinion, 4 types of luck, right?
Okay.
I thought about it from maybe even, I think it makes sense from the data science / AI point of view as well.
Yeah.
First, I would call it blind luck or random luck. Like, you're sitting here and then something just drops on your lap.
Yeah.
You don't do anything and you get lucky. You buy a lottery ticket, you hit. And that's blind luck. That's great. The second one is maybe motion luck, right? So when you're in motion and you move from one spot to the other spot, imagine there's this luck machine, just like a casino, machine. And as long as you are in different places, you're moving, kind of the entropy of this system of luck will hit you, right?
Yeah,
so that's the second type. The third type of luck is happens when you're more aware of your environments, right? So basically you expand your views to receive information from the source, right? So when you're more aware of what's happening around you, or generally if you're more knowledgeable and you're aware, I think you are more likely to get lucky. And the last one, which in my opinion, sometimes I feel like works for me, and I'm sorry, it may just be like a little bit conceited to say, but it's like uniqueness luck.
Yeah.
Right? So when you have like some features that are very unique to you, like you're a unique color on the palette, for example, right? You're easily distinguishable. Like if there is like luck out there, I think luck will find you because you're easily, you can be easily identified.
Yeah. You stand out.
You stand out. Exactly.
Yeah.
You stand out. So I don't believe in luck. Like by blind luck. I don't think I've never had a blind luck in my life. I don't think I have. Maybe I had, I don't know. Right? So like I never won a lottery. I never just got to somewhere without actually putting the work.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I think the more work you put in, of course, in the right direction, the more luck you attract. I think everyone's success, there are some lucky factor in us, right? How we got our job, how we meet our mentor.
Absolutely.
But you have to have the foundation of knowledge. You have to work for it.
Yeah, I think I take my word back. I think that I have a blind luck in my life, and that's my genes. Right? So that's that's the blind luck. I didn't work for it. It just came with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you know how genes express itself? You can have the same gene with another person, but I think your environment affects how the gene expresses itself. So if you take care of your body, your mind, maybe, the potential disease, I'm not a biologist, don't quote me for it, doesn't express itself. So again, I think your behavior, your intention might affect not your genes, but the expression of your genes.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know where we're talking about now. Okay, generative AI.
Yeah.
Applied Science Manager of Generative AI Innovation Lab. What is generative AI, and what do you do at Amazon?
I see. Okay, I love this question. So let's talk about generative AI systems. They are typically built using and on top of what we call foundation models. Foundation models are these large models that are trained on vast amount and corpora of data, and they can adapt pretty well to downstream tasks. Right? AWS as a whole does a lot in GenAI space. Of course, we have the Amazon Bedrock, and then we have the Code Whisperer, and Alexa's been running on generative AI models. On the .com side, we have applications. So even across the other board, I'm pretty sure we've been using some form of a generative model in the past, right? So there's a lot happening across the company, but Amazon Generative AI Innovation Center, we are a group of applied scientists, engineers, strategists, ML strategists, machine learning strategists, that basically we pair the organization and the company with our team of experts, and then we help you identify the top use cases. We help you find, we provide workshops and hands-on help to actually get you onboarded in your GenAI journey. Also, we provide advisory help, technical advisory help to actually work with you to identify areas that it makes sense for your business to take advantage of these menu of GenAI applications, just like you mentioned.
Yeah.
And then there are common use cases in generative AI, such as, the most common most commons are text summarization, insight extraction, question answering or QA chatbots, right? But also the newer ones, which are more into the multimodal space, image generation, video generation, music generation, just content in general. If you want my opinion, there are 4 major areas that in the short term, GenAI will have a significant impact on the business. First one is that it will unlock / create new experiences for the customers, right? So you could now have a hyper personalized way of interacting with your customer, right? Using these LLMs and GenAI systems. The second one is increases productivity, right? Like, let alone basically the generative code, like the code generation using the generative AI models. That alone, I think, will increase the productivity of developers substantially. On the other hand, right now we could have agents that could act on our behalf, run SQL queries, and say, a developer who used to spend so much time writing this query can just like type the natural language form and get a query run on their behalf, and then get the insight. And what does it mean? It means the top developers, they can now have a free of mind.
Right.
They can think about strategically, and say someone who didn't know anything about an SQL code, now they can get their answers from the data, right?
Yeah.
So that's the second. The third one is insight extraction from the vast amount of data that every corporation in the world has, right? You could now just deploy easily a retrieval augmented generation RAG system on your existing knowledge base, and then get like question answers. And the last one is help with the creativity side, right? So image generation, video generation, music generation. You could create content for your audience. I think there's a lot of potential.
Yeah. That's very exciting. And moving from working on machine learning, deep learning project to generative AI, do you miss the old machine learning workflow?
Yeah, so here's the thing. Like, I think there is like a little bit of the miscommunication. And that happens typically when there is like a hype, right? So when there is like a hype, everyone now thinks Gen AI is completely different than a traditional machine learning. On the other hand, actually, we take advantage of so many of the ML just frameworks of how to actually look and structure a machine learning model. And, and on the other hand, we have all these AI services that you can, just like a puzzle piece, you can connect them together. And there may be, an LLM acting in various parts of this. Maybe the LLM is just a conversational agent for you, or no, maybe LLM does the feature engineering for you. Maybe LLM is actually the one who does the evaluation for you. You could take advantage of generative AI systems to help you get there, but at the end of the day, you may need a computer vision application. You may need actually to run some, SQL queries and get some prediction out of your model soon, right? So I don't think it's that different. Though one thing I want to point out is that in the past, we had the thinkers, and then we had the builders. And then, the thinkers were like applied scientists, and then like
research scientists.
And then we had the builders were like machine learning engineers, solution architects, right? What has happened from what I see from the Gen AI, how it happens is that now this skill set is kind of like merging, right? So as thinkers, we also are building. We built, a pipeline. I love it. So, and on the other hand, the builders now are thinking about how to optimize their getting to know workflow. So that's interesting. That's a very interesting trend I see. Yeah.
And there are so many new development in generative AI. Previously, we talked about how to learn new things. So besides working with the customer, you have to learn, and sometimes you got a request. It might be stressful, and you're a manager. You need to keep in touch with the direct reports. So now you work with customers. You also manage a team, and there's a lot of news and new technology from the GenAI side. So what is your day-to-day like? How do you manage work and personal life?
I'm not a complete person, so I don't stick with this routine at all times.
You're not a machine.
I'm not a machine. I wish I was. Yeah. I mean, I wish that I was a machine with a human soul. I think that would be good. So that, yeah. But I wake up. I try to wake up early. It makes me stressed if I wake up late. I just don't like it. I try to hit the gym immediately. Do like a HIIT workout. I alternate between the HIIT and yoga recently. Oh my God. Like it's been like few months I've been doing yoga. Please do it. I started late in my life. I'm one of those dudes who go to the gym and I have like zero, you go to the yoga class and have zero flexibility, but still I go and do it. And in fact, that's the point. It's okay if you guys don't have flexibility. Let's go to it. Let's make it. And then I come back home, I make a shake, and then I love to journal. Like, I have to put my thoughts down. Otherwise, like if I don't put my thoughts down and go to work, I probably bring some of those thoughts to work. Not healthy.
I remember you shared a book with me. It's called The Artist's Way.
The Artist's Way. Yeah.
The morning journal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I still put down my morning pages, but not every day. I used to do it every day. Nowadays, it's just when I have actually the time, because there's a lot happening, of course. And then I like to meditate. I'm obsessed recently with incense. The ones when you like light them out and there's like a interesting smell and scent. I have them a lot right now. So I just hit one up and I sit down, do the meditation. I think if I don't do those things, Daliana, and I have reviewed and looked back from the end of the day work, I am a completely different person. Like if I do it, I am coming to work as if like I have put everything, parked. And then I'm fresh. Versus if I don't do it, I just feel like I just arrived. You know what I mean?
Like, you have all the anxieties.
Yeah, it's just like everything in me. And so I know that we hear these on social media. Every other person probably has the same morning routine. And probably that's why I adopted the same morning routine. But it works.
Yeah. And how do you find time to learn new things?
Yes, that's a good question. I do like to have at least a review of the news in the tech world in the morning, especially in the GenAI world. You want to be on top of things, right? So a lot of times new models, new approaches, new technology, new investments, it comes up. So you want to be on top of things. Right. So I in the morning, I have signed up for a few of these newsletters.
For example?
That's a good one. I have to come back at you.
Okay, never mind.
They just come to my email.
Yeah, so basically you read those newsletters.
Yeah, those are very good. Honestly, thank you, folks, for whoever that puts them together.
Yeah.
You make our lives so easy. Thank you. So, I read them. And of course, let's be honest. Not all of them are perfect. Sometimes you see something and you're like, I don't know. So you have to double click, read about it to make sure that it's actually the right piece of information. And then technical reading, I love it when I'm on commute and then I put my headphones with a binaural beat. Is that the right way to say it?
I don't know.
Binaural. It's like that low frequency wave.
That helps you focus.
I put it on and then I read a technical paper on the subway. That's like, I love it. You have no idea. I just feel like I go into a zone and then I love it. So commute time, I use it to read technical things.
Interesting. Okay. What other type of books do you read? Do you read about business or psychology?
I go through phases. It depends. Like recently, I've been reading this book, The Creative Way, The Creative Act. The Creative Act, A Way of Being. it's fascinating book. Like, it's about, creativity and art, but I think it applies to life.
Yeah. I know you also play poker.
Oh yeah. I read a lot of poker books. I read a lot of poker books.
So what lessons you learned from poker that you applied to your career and life?
That's a very good question. Okay, so if you just want to say maybe like one lesson from poker is that even if you wake up with pocket aces and you're in position, you're on the button and you are pocket aces, the player on the small blind has 7 deuce of suit, they still may hit their card. Like, yes, 80, I think 2% chance or more you're gonna win, but there is still a chance you're gonna lose, and that's okay. That's the part of the game, right? And for me, the lesson I learned from poker is that you just have to play every hand. Wake up, get your hand, pick up with the hand, play. It may work that day. It may never work that day. It may work the other day. Actually, sometimes in poker, you may just want to fold quickly so that you retain the loss.
Right, learn how to quit.
Learn how to quit. Like, fold and accept that, hey, this hand didn't work for me.
Right.
This career move wasn't right for me.
Right.
This project failed, but that's fine. It wasn't right for me. That's totally fine.
Yeah. Even if quitting, but if it's a good decision, it's the right move towards your next level of your career.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like, all of them are an opportunity to grow. In my opinion, right?
But you have to keep doing it.
Keep doing it. That's it. Like, hit the ground, get up. I think that's the key to success.
I
just
like that.
To get up. Hit the ground, get up. Like, the get up. As long as you get up, that's fine. Next hand. Get up, next hand. One of these hands, the lock factor machine is gonna hit you and you're gonna get somewhere. Again, it's the same scenario. Even if, say, okay, so you have right now, imagine someone wants to come into the, out of the complete AI world, wants to come to the AI world. They try different things. They come in, they get the job. It's still the same game. Still, you have to wake up. You have to provide value.
Right,
You have to do it every day. So the principle here, in my opinion, that I got from poker, again, as a summary, is that always there is an uncertainty in the game.
Right.
Even if you have the best hand, you may still lose. And even if you have the worst hand, you may still hit your card.
Right. So also don't give up too early. If you're dealt with a bad hand.
Please don't quit. Please don't quit too quickly. That applies to relationships too. I don't want to talk about relationship also. A honeymoon phase lasts from 6 months to 2 years. Please don't quit, folks. Let's work together.
So we also talk about it's important to know when to quit. So how do you know whether you should quit or not quit? So for example, for you, how do you know you need to quit your previous research career?
That's a very good question. My answer to that is intuition is estimated. Human intuition. I feel like intuition it's like the source is communicating through us and wants to tell us something, but it's in own ways, right? The universe is talking to us, it's its own ways. So I wouldn't like intuition. And here's the thing, whatever decision you make it right. Right. So, maybe intuitively you're not comfortable, you're not providing value and providing impact as much as you want in your job. That's totally fine. And then you may just one day wake up and be like, you know what? This doesn't make me happy. And intuitively, I just want to, make a turn, just do a quick exit. That's fine. But then you have to know that you're in charge. So you have to make it right. I don't think that there is any good moment to quit. I think no matter what, when you take decision, you have to make it right.
Cool. And we previously talked about how you learn new things, how you carve out time to read. And another way to learn is by doing.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes,
And
yeah.
I know when you told me about the side project you worked on while you were learning GenAI, can you tell us about it?
So yeah, when the new wave of GenAI was coming, of course, like I said, I knew NLP. I worked in AI ML for, 7, 8 years. So I knew how to go about it. But then for me, maybe the more effective way of doing thing or learning is actually getting to the mud. I love getting into the mud.
Right.
Just,
so what did you
do?
Yeah.
Okay, so I thought about it. I was talking. Okay, so I am frustrated by setting a date in New York City. It's really hard. Find someone's, availability, find your availability, find a place that someone likes, you like. It's like there's long lines. So I was like, okay, how about we use LLM to build an application that suggests basically dates in New York City. So I did, and I used, it's an easy actually approach. You just use your computer microphone and then record your voice, and then you use a speech to text model. There are so many out there. You could just like Google and probably like find. And then you then have the text, and then you add a context to the text, and then you feed it into an LLM. You give the LLM a role. You can be like, act as a date planner in New York City.
Yeah.
And then when you take that out, I did something interesting. When the output text from the LLM is out, I use the sound synthesis model, and then I had the application to speak with the voice of Margot Robbie.
Yeah, that's funny. The voice of Barbie. So can you tell us on a high level what exactly is the application? What does it do? What's the input? What's the output?
Input is basically it's a conversational, date planner. You speak to it, it speaks to you with,
Margot Robbie's voice help you plan a date.
Yeah, Margot Robbie has to plan a date. Yeah.
So what was the process? Like, how did you figure out all the components, and what kind of tools or framework you use in this app?
I think right now with LangChain, which is like a abstract orchestration tool, you could just chain these easily. You could just use, there is like Bedrock agents from Amazon also. You could use them. As long as you have what processes happen. So in this step, you can break them down in a chain, right? So we have the speech to text, and then we have text prompt, right?
Yeah.
With the context, probably by prompt, I mean like a prompt and a context, you feed it into the LLM.
Yeah.
You get an output. This output LLM right now, actually, I didn't use a RAG system, but someone actually can go ahead and add maybe like talk to some of these businesses and then have their schedule so that there is like a database availability, or maybe they can connect it to Resi or all these other reservation applications, and then check the availability there. And then you receive, and then you outline top 5, for example, date ideas, and then you feed that into a speech synthesis application such as like 11 Labs. I mean, they're pretty good, right?
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
And what are some lessons you learned from this process of building your first GenAI application?
Well, the biggest lesson I learned is that, wow, it's so easy. It's just so easy to do that. Especially right now with like Code Whisperer, for example. You don't have to actually just write all lines of code. You can describe it, it will write it for you, right? So, of course, maybe there's like a need for debugging. That's fine. I mean, that's what happens when you build applications. There's always little tweaks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first learning. The other learning I had from that was the fact that I think the process of putting these two pieces together, it's almost like a work of art. Because there are various ways you could do this.
Yeah.
Right? So there are various ways you could actually click these pieces together to do the job for you.
Yeah.
But then how do you do it, which comes at the lowest cost?
Right.
And then like latency is acceptable, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't hallucinate.
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned building this application is like working on a piece of art. And I know you're an artist at heart. During the pandemic, you did a program at a film school.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that and also your other hobbies outside of work?
Yeah. So pandemic was a transformational phase for me. I mean, I started taking a course at music school, actually, point blank in London. And that's the good thing about, not good, but that's like a silver lining of pandemic, which then enabled this just remote access to things, So I took the course and then I went deep into music production. I even built a SoundCloud profile and I realized, oh my God, I have no talent in music generation.
Yeah.
I'm good with the engineering side. I can mix, I can master, but I cannot actually sit down and write a melody. And that's a lesson I'm going to share with the audience also, that not until you try, you really don't know.
Right.
Like you have to go try and then and the process of trying, and a lot of skills are transferable. By trying, you earn skills that they can transfer to other things. Okay, at that point, I was like, okay, sound or music is not my thing. I used to do photography back home. I have a passion for photography.
Yeah.
So then I bought a camera and then I took a course then, or a program at NYU Tisch, which is like right here, on TV film industry essentials. Fascinating course. It was 5 modules, explained end to end about film. So I was passionate about it. I made 2 shorts, like a course project, which I never published because they're terrible. But then again, like just going through the practice of, cinematography, writing the script, going and finding someone to actually act for you, then take the shot, bring it, post-prod, credit, sound, score, all of that, you will learn so much just by going through that. And then I was lucky enough to meet Shahrzad Dadgar, who's the director of the upcoming feature film Eternity Road. And I was very lucky to meet her, and she trusted me to be on board as an executive producer. So I did that. It was like a fascinating experience. I'm very excited for the film to come out at the end of this year. I think it's going to be super, super cool. The topic is really interesting. I think just keep an eye out, guys. Eternity Road.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
And, your life, there's a lot of things you work on, you're busy. How do you find time to work on this project, to learn? Like, was it hard to say, okay, I'm going to turn off my work laptop and just work on my hobby?
I think at the end of the day, in life, you want to have some outlet which gives you a sense of fulfillment.
Yeah.
Like if someone really feels fulfilled by work, I don't think there is anything wrong with it, right? So it's not like, actually, I don't believe in balance that much.
Yeah.
I think like balance is limiting in my opinion, right? Like the balance that they teach you at the social media posts. And like,
you have to measure the exact scale to balance.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way, Balance, you create the balance yourself. Maybe balance for you is to live on the edge. I think balance for me is to live on the edge.
Love it.
Yeah. So, but for me, balance for me came when my mind like is cooked after 10 hours of work. So what do? I go and turn into my, mixer. I go turn into my, footage. And then that will make me feel fulfilled by living this life.
Gotcha. So some people like to maybe go for a walk or watch Netflix or play video games. So
whatever. That's whatever.
Your video game.
Yeah, exactly. Do whatever. As long as it makes you fulfilled, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And life in balance, actually, the people who find, I'm not judging anyone, But just, I feel like life in balance comes from a place of privilege. Like, I don't think these days, especially if you're an immigrant, you just show up in the United States, you don't have any immigration status, you don't have a job, you have to finish your PhD, like your graduate studies, you have to find a job. How are you going to be have a life? But there's no way.
You're constantly in survival mode.
Yeah.
You can't afford balance.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying, especially when you just started in a job. You don't know whether you're doing well or not well. Even if you're doing well, you still worry, oh, what if I get fired and get kicked out of the country? I think it's after a few years, you have a sense of, oh, okay, I'm actually okay. And I don't have to work over the weekend. I can push back if my plate is full. So at that time, you have the confidence, the experience, and then you can start to have more balance.
Yeah, we worked, you and I think so many people that you see, oh, okay, these guys, we worked overnight so much, over the weekend so much. And I never nagged that, hey, my life is not balanced. I was like, I'm going to get there. Right? This is the vision I see and I'm going to get there. That's the process. It crosses over working nonstop over the weekend.
Yeah.
So be it, you know?
Yeah. So you have to basically earn the experience, the confidence to be balanced. Once you are a senior data scientist, people also trust your opinion more. You don't have to constantly prove yourself. I mean, of course, some people can constantly burn like that. They keep working like that. They might get to their next goal faster. But at a certain point, you're going to ask yourself, what's the objective function for my life, not just for my career? Maybe I'm not at, 200% of this momentum going to the next level of my job, but I'm more fulfilled in my life. Maybe I'm okay with being 70 of my career, but life-wise, I'm more balanced. Yeah. So I like this take. Yeah, I think you're right. Sometimes balance, it is a privilege. Like I remember when I was in grad school, I was looking for a job. I wasn't thinking about balance. But on the other side, I could argue, even when we were working on our POC, we're so busy. I was looking at some other coworkers. They had their balance. I think it's also depending on how you manage your workload. At the end of the day, your manager might always see whether you can take on more work. It's up to you to say, hey, whether this is enough for me. I think I also learned from some of our coworkers, they understand in order for me to deliver results consistently, I need to have this balance. So even if they're early in their career, I see them manage this pretty well, and then they still get their promotion. I think I could also argue a lot of the time we say, oh, balance is a privilege. It's rooted in a lot of fear in our head. So on one side, I agree with you, but I also think there might be a different story. So, but whatever works for you, I think that's for the audience to figure out themselves.
Yeah, I mean, look, if someone wants to live a balanced life, I mean, like I said, there is nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
However, my point is, if you don't want to have the balance, like the quote unquote, the written balance, I think that's perfectly fine as well. Because sometimes you actually can't live that balanced life because you have a vision and the vision crosses on the edge. So when you're on the edge to get to the vision, you can't have the balance. Right.
You have to have the momentum. Yeah. And I think it's impossible to always imbalance. It's okay to be off balance a little bit. Have you heard of the quote, I think by Naval? He said, work like a lion. So when you have a deadline, you work super hard, you're all in, you could work maybe 16 hours a day. And once you finish this, you rest, enjoy the feast.
Just chill, enjoy the feast,
while you're working, it could seem like this person is completely out of balance, but you can repeat the cycle. So whatever works for you. Maybe you like to just work 8 hours a day consistently for, 10 years, or maybe you are in this kind of lion like work style. So like you said, everybody's balance is different. I would say maybe not a balance, find your own rhythm.
I like that.
Yeah. I love this discussion. So Maddie, you have a lot of collaborators. I know there's so many mentors or friends or people you collaborate on project. You just run into them in some random situation, which I don't think is completely random. So how do you say find a mentor, or how do you get yourself so many new opportunities?
That's a very good question. I mean, I think that I always look into people to learn from. And that learning is not just how to go up the corporate ladder.
No.
Or like how to learn the new encoder decoder architecture.
Yeah.
Yes, those two, but general life view of life. How does people look at life? How do you actually go about experiencing it? So I look into that from people. My mentors, I don't have particularly like mentors in my organization.
Okay.
I think honestly, social media, if you curate the messages you get, that's good. Like some of my mentors are my social media people that I follow. I have to be honest with you. I think like the messages they give, it's remarkable. So
right. Yeah.
So
anyone you can learn from.
Yeah, like this show, folks. Like, you can learn so much from this show that we are now. Kudos to you for, providing a platform for people like me to come and, express themselves. That's a lot. But also just being open to listen and lean in.
How do you lean in? For example, you meet someone interesting. Do you just say, hey, can we have dinner sometime? How do you approach those new relationships?
No, let me tell you something like that. For example, when someone asks you, like, hey, how are you? Or like you go talk to them, instead of just being like, good, you can actually provide some context in the conversation. You can be like, yeah, I'm good today. I did this and that, which by the way happened like that.
Right.
And then basically, so technically in a conversation, I'm sorry that I'm treating it this way. It's like you go narrow until you find something that the person is interested, and then you go deep. When you go deep, then you ask questions, and people love to talk.
Right.
People love to talk. People love to express themselves. I mean, we are humans.
Yeah.
Like the tribe, we would just sit around the fire and everyone tells a story. People love to tell stories, right? So
you plant the seeds in the conversation.
Yeah.
You can try different seeds with this person and see which one you resonate.
Exactly.
And once you resonate, so it's not like you meet someone interesting, you immediately like, hey, let's go to dinner. You're so cool. You don't have that bond.
No.
But you try different type of
soul.
So you try different type of topic, and if you did connect this natural, say, hey, maybe we can collaborate on the project, or I can work on your project, or I like that.
If whoever collaborator you want to work with, this is like my rule of thumb. I need to be friends with them.
Yeah.
Because, if I am not friends with you, if I don't vibe with you,
right.
and, how am I going to like collaborate with you?
Yeah.
I mean, job on the corporate wise, you are destined to kind of like collaborate. But outside that, if you want to find collaborators, I would say, just okay. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, before we wrap up, Maddie, how do you see your future? Okay, let me say this again.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh.
Go until I do another one. Okay, go ahead. Oh, actually, you know what? This died, so never mind.
Yeah.
We have one that. Okay, so tell me. Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, Maddie, so before we wrap up, Now you're working on very exciting generative AI projects. How do you see your future career go? Where do you want to be?
Yeah, if I can find an outlet that I can focus completely on the sustainability side, I thought about it actually. I would take that route.
Yeah.
Maybe like cross of sustainability and AI, because I think at the end of the day, AI and ML has a lot of power and applicability in the sustainability area. We can tackle a lot of sustainable challenges using machine learning and artificial intelligence, and I'm passionate about it. So I'm hoping, I still have some, for example, this year I went and I represented my org at the AWS Summit Sustainability booth. So, I do some activities like that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that reminds me of a conversation I had with another guest. He worked on neuroscience, but his first job in Google wasn't related to neuroscience, but he always have that in the back of his head. So whenever there's opportunity, he tried to combine neuroscience and AI. It's very similar to your story. So basically, it's your brand. Okay. You're trying to merge your domain knowledge of sustainability to AI, and that can be a very cool niche, because not a lot of people in sustainability know AI and vice versa, and you're gonna have this T-shaped career. You have something as a generalist in data science and AI, and you're also very deep in sustainability. I think that's very exciting.
Yeah. I mean, that's like fingers crossed. That's the direction I'm going. I'm now in rush. I just feel like I'm still in training, right? I just being trained. And let's see, maybe there's a day that I just feel empowered to take on the next journey. But for now, I think I want to have fun, build GenAI applications.
Yeah, maybe one day you'll create a generative AI movie on sustainability.
Yeah. That would be really fun.
Yeah, awesome. Well, it's so fun to have you on the Data Scientist Show to talk about,
Thank you.
The days when we work together and learn more about what you're doing right now. I'm very excited I'm very excited about the future of your career. And of course, let us know when the movie you produce comes out.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dariana, for providing this opportunity. Once again, I admire you for what you've, accomplished.
Thanks.
Yeah, I give your example to so many of my friends as someone who just wanted to do their own thing and doing their own thing. So I love it, Dariana. Yeah.
Cool. Well, cheers.
Yes, cheers.